I'm going to try to focus a little bit upon the concept of spiritual enlightenment over the next few videos. Who knows how many times I'm going to do that. But the reason is because it certainly seems to me to be a major concern of people that are spiritually inclined, or people that are going to see gurus, or literally anyone that is in that arena, if you will, seems to be preoccupied with the concept of enlightenment, that they want to become enlightened. It certainly was true with Buddha, according to what we read and study, that his idea or concept of what he was searching for, meaning enlightenment, was very elusive, and he couldn't find it. And nobody could teach him. And he saw lots of teachers. He saw lots of gurus. And he was not the average person. He had the wherewithal of royalty to be able to go wherever and do whatever, even though he denounced his inheritance or whatever. It didn't matter. He was still well known as a prince. And obviously well educated prior to embarking upon that path of searching for enlightenment. So that's why I'm going to focus upon that, because it certainly seems to be something of importance to most people. When I was searching on this path, that was not my preoccupation, focus, or anything else. And the reason being is because mainly for me personally, I was Christian, and I say was because I no longer, well, what Jesus taught is definitely what I cleave to, if you will, as being reflective of what the truth is, but I don't follow any Christian creed or belong to any Christian creed, and mainly because they're all corrupt, just like all organized. When I say corrupt, don't take that as a negative, because I'm off on a tangent here. Because most religions and organizations and stuff have so much good to them, regardless of the fact that they're corrupt. And because the organization is an inanimate object, it's a building, it's this, it's that. And it's the focus needs to be on the people. And yeah, it's very likely that the people at the top are corrupt and evil, but the parishioners, or the people that are members and stuff, for the most part, they're just like you and I. They're good people. They're on a path. They're doing the best they can, and you can learn a lot from them. So, and they do a lot of good in the world too. So don't take that as a real negative when I say they're corrupt. Corrupt, all I mean by that is the core teaching of what they teach is being corrupted and designed to enslave you as an individual, to keep you in their organization so that they have power and money, as you being enslaved to their traditions and everything. And they're not regardless of what they say, they're not focused upon you being a better person or whatever. And when I say it's the inanimate organization. It's the corporation of those organizations. But getting back onto the concept of enlightenment. So in preparation for this video, I decided, well, let me surf the internet. Let me see what I can find on enlightenment. Oh, wait a second. I forgot to say. So for me personally, I did not go upon the path of going to Sangha and seeking out gurus because I wanted to become enlightened. I just did it because I'm an incredibly curious person about everything. And I wanted to know, what is it that is their focus? What are they trying to teach? And so I went off onto this path of trying to find out what non-duality, what in the hell are they trying to convey and everything. Not that I ever for one moment believed in that concept. I still wanted to know from their foundational understanding, what is it that they are teaching? What is it that they believe to be true? And as coming from a Christian background, it took me several years to be able to understand as well or better than the gurus that are teaching non-duality. And I was satisfied afterwards. It's like, yeah, okay, I get it. I understand what they're teaching now. And that's true about everything. But in the process, I found that almost everyone involved in that process of Eastern philosophy and stuff like that, and even Christianity for the most part, if they're off on a tangent, they're seeking after enlightenment. But here's the problem, okay? The problem is people don't know what enlightenment is. Because as I was just saying 2 minutes ago before I got back on track, is I went on the internet and I did some searches and I'm looking at books and just a ton of stuff. It's like, what is being taught? What in the heck are they trying to convey about enlightenment? I mean, specifically looking into that field. And I'm not kidding you. I'm telling you, it's the same for me as it is for you. You're not going to find anything that I haven't already found. So you're not going to be able to go in there and say, well, John doesn't know what he's talking about. I found something in the internet. I found something on YouTube, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, this person apparently was overlooked by John. No, I've looked at them all. I've searched deep. I mean, maybe there's somebody out there that is completely unknown, but if they're unknown, how would you know about them? So I'm telling you, nobody out there that's teaching about enlightenment knows what it is. And if they don't know what it is, how in the hell can they teach you how to become enlightened? Now, I will tell you this. I got off track again. I wanted to tell you that I did not pursue enlightenment because coming from a Christian standpoint, I just wanted to know. And so I went into that, and a decade later, then I understood what enlightenment is. I had to do a lot of studies of the ancient writings in the Bhagavad Gitas and all the Vedas and the different sutras. And I mean, I did some extensive for a decade trying to understand what in the hell is Buddha talking about? And when I do that, for me personally, okay, because again, I come from a Christian background, if I'm trying to study something that is supposedly the teachings of Buddha, for instance, or Lao Tzu or something like that, I might spend 10, 15, 20 minutes, maybe hours, praying for guidance from God, from the powers that be, and humbly asking for divine inspiration so that I can know in my mind and in my heart and in my soul what the author was trying to convey. Because that's an incredibly important thing to know. Because no matter what you read, you're just getting your version of what it is that the author is trying to convey. It's your version. It isn't the version that the author is writing. It's your version. People don't generally understand that. You have to forget about what your version is and pray for guidance or seek guidance or paradigm shifts or whatever you want to call it. But you can't, it's not possible to understand something that you have no experience in. It's not even possible. And so when you're reading something that Buddha was supposedly trying to convey, or this or that, or what Jesus was trying to convey, you're going to get your version. And your version is always based upon your own life experience. And if your version doesn't have enough life experience to be able to convey properly to you what the author is trying to convey, no matter how hard you try, you're never, ever, ever going to be able to understand what that author is trying to convey to you. It's your version. And so for me, I had a backlog of 50 plus years of studying and everything. And then that was able to be conveyed to me with prayer and fasting and everything that you can think of, trying to understand what the author was trying to convey. And that's how I learned. And when I talk to a guru, I want to know what's in his mind, not what's in my mind, but what's in his mind. What is he trying to teach me or her? So if you get that straight in your head, maybe you'll start to learn something. Because if you don't have it now, you're never going to get it. Does that make sense? If it isn't within your wheelhouse, is what someone might say, or if it isn't within your current experience, you're never going to get it unless you get it from outside you. All these people that are teaching you it's in you, this, that, and everything else, these people are lunatics, they're liars. One other thing I wanted to convey, again off on a tangent, is if you don't come to the understanding and realization, if you don't do this, you're never going to become enlightened, you're never going to learn these things. If you do not understand fully that there are demonic forces, overwhelming demonic forces, that are trying to keep you from learning these things, and they do it through corruption and everything else. Now, on this spiritual path, for instance, if you go off on that path, you will find that, for me personally, there's vast majority of people that might ask me questions and say, hey, John, or if you believe my pen name, Billy, hey, Billy, I don't understand this. What are you trying to convey here? More times than not, vastly more times than not, that person isn't trying to understand what I'm teaching. That person is a demon. That person is part of the force of evil out there. All they're trying to do is waste my time. All they're trying to do is try to lead me into a trap and this and that. And I'm not being, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm not being afraid or any of that nature. It's just that that's what reality is. And if you do not take that into consideration, you're never going to learn correctly what enlightenment is. You're never going to learn these things because you're going to get sidetracked by demonic forces. And that's the way it is in this reality. And if you don't believe in demonic forces, then you don't believe in spirituality. You don't believe in any of this. You might as well turn the video off and go study something else, like metalwork or woodwork or whatever. But in this field, spirituality, there's demonic forces. And if you don't believe it, you're an idiot. Or a demon, and trying to convince me that there's no such thing as that. So getting back on track again with enlightenment. I searched far and wide. Nobody knows. They say they know, but they're either liars, demons, or idiots. They don't know what enlightenment is. There's a lot of good people, good, really seemingly good people that are gurus or whatever. And probably doing a lot of good in the world. They don't know what enlightenment is. There may be some Zen masters in the world that know what enlightenment is, but the problem with that is, unless you are already enlightened, you're not going to know what the Zen master is trying to teach you, because that is what Zen is. Zen is, in essence, an enlightened spiritual teacher that is teaching you direct, straight truth with nothing polished up, nothing altered, nothing changed. They teach in cones that would appear to be gobbledygook that makes no sense, but it makes perfect sense if you happen to be enlightened. But if you're not, it doesn't make sense at all. But that's the way Zen is. And the reason it doesn't make sense to a normal person is, as I was explaining just a few minutes ago, if you do not have the personal experiences and everything in your life, then it's not going to make sense. And if you understand one cone and you go, oh, I finally get it, that doesn't mean jack. That doesn't mean you're enlightened. It just means you think you understand one of the teachings that Zen master was trying to teach you. Doesn't mean you understand anything about what that meaning really is. You understand a level. Just like when Jesus was teaching parables, there's multiple levels of understanding of one single concept. And you got off the ground, you might have understood the first concept of what Zen is, but you don't understand the full measure of what that Zen master was trying to teach. But again, I don't know of any Zen masters on the planet that are enlightened at this particular time. That doesn't mean there aren't any. I'm just telling you, I don't know of any. So, again, that being said, what would my advice be to you personally if you want to become enlightened? I will tell you. So, there's no magic to enlightenment. I take that back. It might seem like magic, or mysterious, but mystery is simply an inability to understand something that is not really mysterious. So, for instance, you could say, oh, wow, that's a real mystery. Nobody knows that's a real mystery. Well, it's not a mystery to God. It's very crystal clear to God. So it's not a mystery. That's the issue with enlightenment. It isn't a mystery at all if you understand it. But to everybody in the world, it's a mystery. They don't understand it. So my advice to you, if you want to become enlightened, get it out of your head that you're going to understand something, that you're just missing something, that if you just read this book, or if you just watched that video, or if you just listened to this guru, or if you just did that, or if you, it's like, boy, I'm just missing and then once I get it, it'll happen. No, untrue. Get that out of your head. There's a whole lot of things that have to take place. So my advice to you, if you want to become enlightened, my advice to you is don't focus on enlightenment. Get that out of your head. Put it in the background of your head. It's like, yeah, in the end, it would be really nice to be enlightened. But I'm not going to focus on that, because if I focus on that, I'm not going to become enlightened. But if I did become enlightened, I will tell you that right now, it's not going to be very satisfying to you. Why? Because you need a plethora. You need an incredible, vast amount of knowledge and wisdom to be able to assimilate it correctly, or not correctly, but to be able to assimilate it together so that your enlightenment means something to you or anyone else around you too. Because what enlightenment actually does is connect all the dots. I mean, all the mysteries, all the things. No, it's like an endless supply of stuff that nobody knows answers to. It's like it's endless. And when it deals with spirituality, it spans all the different religions and faiths and sciences and all that kind of stuff. And it's like all mysteries. Well, if that's in your head already, because you've focused upon understanding from the point of view of the author or the teacher or the prophet or whoever it is, if you understand their point of view of reality, and of course you can't do it without some sort of divine inspiration taking place, or you actually being one-on-one with the teacher for possibly years, you're not going to be able to get that, which is directly from the author, from the mind of the author. You're not going to get it. So you have to really, really, really study and cram your awareness full of everything. And if that's boring to you, then again, you're not on the right path. Get off of this particular path and pursue something else in life. But if that interests you to the point that it's inconceivable to go do or focus upon something else in your life, then yes, then pursue this and fill your head with everything. It doesn't matter if it's right, wrong, or indifferent. In other words, if you are prepared enough, if you've got enough strength in your character and in your awareness and in your knowledge and wisdom and all these things, there's nothing wrong with studying under the guidance of a Satanist and study satanic teachings and maybe witchcraft and stuff like that. It's not going to taint you personally, because you would be an individual that is seeking knowledge and wisdom. And they always teach you, oh, don't shy away from that, because you'll become evil or corrupted. You're not going to become anything other than what you are. Because if you become evil, it's not because you're becoming evil, you are evil. It's like, do you think God doesn't know what Satan is? Do you think God doesn't know these? Or does God go, oh, I don't want to know what Satan knows, because if I did, I might become like Satan? That's idiocracy. That's crazy thinking. So no, if you're on this path and you've already filled your awareness with all of these other things, there's nothing wrong with studying Satanism or this or that or whatever to increase your awareness prior to becoming enlightened. There's nothing wrong with that, because you're assimilating, you're connecting all the dots. Does that make sense? And furthermore, since we do live in this reality, and since Satan is the god of this realm, and on and on and on, clearly it's condoned by the Creator God. Otherwise, it wouldn't be available and existing. So that's another way to look at it. Doesn't mean you have to participate in sacrificing babies on an altar or killing animals or anything of that nature. No, you don't have to participate in that. But to learn why they're doing it or what the purpose is or whatever. There's nothing wrong with learning these things. I shy away from learning why they do sexual stuff, because to me, I don't want to know that kind of evil crap. To me, that's disgusting, and it's like, okay, that's where I draw the line. But to you personally, you got to do what you got to do. So that's my suggestion if you want to become enlightened. Fill your awareness with everything you can, and not just your version of everything, but try to get it in your head. Every time you read something, every day, when, let's say you're reading the Vedas, for instance, every single day go, I'm not trying to learn something, my version of this. I'm trying to learn what the author intended. And that's a very hard thing to do. But if you can do that, you'll be able to connect all the dots when you become enlightened. Because when you become enlightened and you got your version of everything, you're not going to be that well off as an enlightened person, if indeed you can become enlightened. So, with that said, that's my advice. Study everything, become aware of everything that you possibly can. Okay, so what is the last thing before I tell you certain things to trigger enlightenment to take place? My last thing I will tell you is my dear wife, whom I love dearly. When I was going through this process several years ago, when I say several years ago, I don't even know. Was it 6 or 7 years ago? I don't know. It was back there a ways. When that happened, it creates an incredible gulf between you and everyone else in the world. As an enlightened individual, you are going to be hard pressed in communicating with other people, because you kind of just stare off into and you don't pay attention to what people are talking, and you're aloof, and you just and then when you talk to people, it's like they don't know, they think you're crazy, they don't know what you're talking about. Well, that may work extremely well in life with normal people, and but if you're married, wow, I'm telling you, you're going to end up divorced, or else somehow you have to be able to help your spouse become enlightened, because otherwise you're going to have one hell of a time in life. It isn't going to go well. But for me personally, I started on this path 30 years ago, and when I was started on the path 30 years ago, one of the statements I made to my wife was, so assuming there was an individual of Adam and Eve, assuming, they kind of betrayed each other in their trust, and, partook of the fruit. The other one says, no, I'm not gonna, it's a story. Who cares? It's a story. But in that particular story, they kind of betrayed each other in how they did things to believe in God and go this path and that and everything else. And so I said, I want to be the first human being that has ever existed on this planet to succeed at being married, being enlightened, being like Jesus. I mean, think about Jesus, for instance. Nowhere in there does it say he got married, and furthermore, he didn't get married. Why? Because as an individual of his age, 30 years old, 33 years old or whatever, and being enlightened and being in that position, there was no companion that he could have had that if they weren't also enlightened and on the same level, it would never have worked. And so he would have failed in his marriage. And of course, that would be unacceptable. So he never got married, because there was no point in getting married, because you can't sustain a relationship when there's such a disparity between the two individuals. And I don't mean disparity meaning Jesus was really good and some woman was not good enough. No, the woman is just as good as Jesus that he knew, or women that he knew were just as good as him probably. But that's not the point. The point is that if you're not on the same level, pretty much spiritually speaking, it's not going to work out. It's just not going to work out. Think about the story of Jesus and how he got along with his own parents, and 12 years old, and the story goes that where are you at? You know, we were looking for you, and I'm in my Father's home, meaning teaching in the temple and stuff like that. And of course, the parents couldn't grasp, even though they knew. The parents couldn't grasp because they were not on the same spiritual level as Jesus. But they were not married because as soon as he got to be an adult, he didn't, that's just the way it is. Children leave their parents and they grow up. But you don't leave your spouse without a divorce. And so, yeah. So for my wife, it was a very difficult thing. And so I'm going to include this in what I'm telling you right now, because I was telling my wife, well, I want to make a video about enlightenment. And how I helped her, I says, would that work on a normal human being? Would that work? I mean, it worked on you, Helen. Would it work on other individuals? And she said, no. And I said, well, why? And not only why, but should I relay that story on a YouTube video? And she says, yeah, you can relay the story, but just include what I'm telling you. And I go, okay, so what are you telling me? And she says, I love you dearly. I've been married to you since I was 18 years old, and you were 20. And when I say 18, we met each other in high school, and we were boyfriend, girlfriend for a couple of years before we got married. But anyway, she says, I've loved you dearly. And it was impossible. And probably maybe, 2-3 years had passed, and it was incredibly difficult. And I just knew, come hell or high water, I have to be able to help my dear wife become enlightened. And so I was relentless. And so her story that she wanted me to convey to you was, she says, John, you were like a 5,000-ton boulder of granite sitting on top of me, squishing the life out of me. And there was nothing I could do. I didn't have the strength to push you off. And I didn't want to, because I love you. But you were relentless. And not only relentless, but loving relentless, like not forcing, but just there constantly. And it was hard. And I'm talking, my wife was a straight A student in high school, very intelligent person. So we're not talking about the average person. No, not at all. Very intelligent. And she struggled for a long time. And in every waking moment, she struggled for months and months and months, trying to understand what I was trying to teach her, which I will convey in a few minutes. She couldn't get it. She couldn't get it. She couldn't get it. And then one day, it was, I would say summer, but I live in Las Vegas, so probably not summer, because it wasn't over 100 degrees outside. It was probably 90 degrees outside. So it was maybe spring or fall. And we were sitting outside, and she just started making comments to me. It's like, these are her words, okay? So this is why you will, not you, but most people think enlightened people have lost their minds. So we're sitting there, and we had a table out on the patio. And she's sitting there and she goes, the table extends right through my body and into infinity. And I go, yeah. Now we're getting into Zen type teaching. And then she started making other crazy comments like that. Well, when I say crazy, not to me, but it would sound crazy to a normal person. And then she started grasping it and then to her, it wasn't instant like it was for me. It was instant, but it took time to assimilate all that stuff. And furthermore, she was more focused on Christianity than anything else, and she never really studied to any degree Eastern philosophies or anything else, where I did. So for her to assimilate from an enlightened point of view, everything that was in her head was different than me. Nevertheless, it was still enlightenment. And then from that day till now, which has been several years, we get along perfect and no problems whatsoever in that area or that arena. But as I said, initially in my life, 30 plus years ago, I said I wanted to succeed where no couple has ever succeeded in all the history of this planet Earth. And so far, I have succeeded. And I am very grateful to God and everyone and my friends and relatives and everything else for being there for me and her and everything else. So, that being said, that's how hard it was for her. And she said, and I'm married to you. Every single day I'm with you and I see you. And for months, every day. And that's how hard it was for her. So, she said, you're not going to be able to help anyone become enlightened. There's no reason you can't try to teach them, but they're not going to be able to jump that paradigm with you because you're not going to be there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for months on end. So I'm conveying what she told me to tell you. So with no further ado, one method that will work. First off, I have to tell you, what is enlightenment? So everybody has it wrong. I mean, like they talk about enlightenment is pure bliss, pure joy, pure this, pure that, some sort of mind explosion, and you'll become one with the universe. And it's all crap. None of this is true. None of that is true. When people say you become one with the universe, that's the first clue that they don't know their butt from a hole in the ground when it comes to enlightenment. Because, first off, the universe doesn't exist. It isn't real. So if you became one with the universe, yeah, you're not enlightened. I can tell you that right now, because you're not saying the correct words to indicate you even know what enlightenment is, let alone being enlightened. If you're one with anything, then clearly you don't understand the concept of enlightenment. What enlightenment is, essentially, is it's not just being aware, but it's actually the experiential being of being engulfed into this awareness that reality doesn't exist. It's not just a thought. It's not just an understanding. It's the experiential part of it that is enlightenment. And when that happens, it is like an explosion of like spiritually synaptic understandings that just start connecting all the dots to each other. In Christianity, they talk about the Holy Ghost is if you have the Holy Ghost, it can teach you the truth of all things. That's kind of a concept of what enlightenment is, but it isn't that, because that whole concept, I won't even go into it. That's something else. So, what would it take for a paradigm shift for you to bridge the gap from this physical realm, reality, into the experiential realm of enlightenment? What would it take for you? Well, I'll tell you what it took for me, okay? And I'm not going to tell you the way it happened. I've already said that in some other video. But what I will tell you is what might work for you. So if you understand mathematics and you understand geometry, and I'll go into this even deeper on other videos. And when I say deeper, cover it again. Because I probably will make, I don't know how many videos on this. But like as I said, since it seems to be a major topic of discussion for people that study spirituality, then I see no reason why I shouldn't cover it multiple times. And maybe go down different tangents and stuff like that to help you. Okay, so what is it? Or no, not what is it. It's I already told you what it is. But how do you get there? How do you bridge that? So I don't have diagrams, but maybe I'll make diagrams in another video. In mathematics, for instance, in geometry, very, very important, okay? Very important. So, and I've said this in other videos, but you really need to pay attention to this. I mean, like, I don't care if you're a mathematician. I don't care if you even know what math is. If you don't know what math is, then you need to study math, because this is incredibly important. God gave clues. The Creator gave clues. Brahma, whatever you want to refer to this Creator God, gave crystal clear clues to help you become aware. Now, the purpose of life is not to become enlightened. You can become enlightened, but that's not the purpose of life. Becoming enlightened is just well, it's like saying, do you have to become a TIG welder and learn how to weld aluminum and stuff like that? Of course you don't. But if you want to, you can. So enlightenment is the same thing. Do you have to learn it? No, you don't. But if you want to, you can. So if you want to, think about this. If you have a perfect circle and you know the diameter is 10 foot, well, you know, maybe I'm wrong on this, but if the diameter is 10 foot, what is the circumference, for instance? Well, you're going to have to round one way or another, because the formula pi never will give you the diameter. And there's a reason for that, because God created this reality to wake you up to the fact that it's an illusion, okay? So if you take the diameter and you go 3.14156, is that right? Anyways, and it goes on and on and on forever. So if you take 3.14156 and you go around, you're not going to know what the circumference is. It's impossible. You can't dial it down. You will get to, if you go deep enough with a supercomputer or whatever, you might be able to get the diameter close enough where you can round up or down a Planck length. Planck, Planck. Anyways, that's after the idiot Max Planck that couldn't realize from an enlightened point of view that reality is an illusion. So instead he created a length, because his brain couldn't comprehend what enlightenment is, and he didn't know. So he had to reduce things to a physicality, and so in his mind he created a fake length. Oh, I like that one, fake length. Don't call it Planck length, call it fake length, because it doesn't exist. And of course there's Planck time, same thing. It doesn't exist, so call it fake time. So you can't get the circumference from a diameter. It's impossible. Impossible. Now, if you knew the circumference, and if the circumference was 10 foot, for instance, what is the diameter? There's no way to know. And here's the odd thing. Here's the odd thing. You can take if you have the ability to visualize things in your mind, because some people don't. My granddaughter can't visualize things in her head. Apparently there's some sort of situation, I wouldn't call it situation, but condition that people don't have the imaginary ability to visualize things in their head. But if you can, then You could take a tape measure, a perfect tape measure, and you can measure the circumference and go, oh, it's right exactly on 10 feet. And you can visualize this and say, we're not off. It's exactly 10 foot. But you take that exact same measuring device. What is the diameter? There's no way to know. If there were incremental divisions of inches, for instance, and those incremental divisions went to infinity. So if you know what a googolplex is, or if you don't, look it up. Look up googolplex. That's like, I believe it's a 1 with 100 zeros after it. No, wait, that's a googol. Okay, so a googol is 1 with 100 zeros past it. And a googolplex, I believe, is 1 with a googol zeros past it. So if you were to divide 1 inch into a googolplex of divisions, you still wouldn't be able to know what the diameter of that circle is, because it's always going to fall in between two digits, 2 numbers, 2 whatever, 2 placeholders. It's going to fall in between. It will never fall on an exact division. You could divide that into infinity, and you still will not be able to find the diameter of that 10-foot circumference circle with that measuring device, because it's impossible. It's impossible. Get that in your head. Get that in your head, because it's super important for you to understand that if you ever want to become enlightened. Because if you do not understand what I'm teaching you, you're never, ever going to become enlightened, because you are going to think constantly that reality is real. And even if you don't think reality is real, even if you believe, and I do mean believe in quotes, that reality is an illusory reality created as a dream reality, it still doesn't matter. You have to understand this mathematical thing that I'm telling you, because that in itself is proving that this reality cannot exist. Not that it doesn't exist, but the fact that it cannot exist. You can do the same thing with time. Divide a minute into seconds, and seconds into picoseconds, and the list goes on to infinity, and there's still no division that will accurately divide what time is. And furthermore, time is, people don't even know what time is. Look on the internet, and all these people with PhDs behind their name and everything that study what time is, they don't know what time is. They don't know what time is. A kindergarten knows what time is. Time is 1 second. But when you study it deeply, the PhDs, they don't know what time is. But that's real simple from an enlightened point of view. You understand that time is a relative measurement based upon the speed of light. That's what time is. Of course, light doesn't exist. It's an imaginary thing, if you will. But nevertheless, in this imaginary thing, reality, the speed of light is what determines time. And it's relative to the speed of light. But that is getting into quantum type stuff that is beyond the understanding of, actually any scientists that I've ever read about or understand. They've got these ideas in their head that they understand the concept of what Einstein was trying to teach about relativity, but they don't understand because they can't be able to comprehend 2 or 3 things at the exact same time when one cancels the other, but this cancels that, and therefore they cleave to, this is real and this isn't real. No, both are real. That's the problem with trying to understand the concept of E equals mc squared, of what Einstein was trying to teach, the theory of relativity, they don't understand because they think that this reality is what's real, and therefore that reality can't be real. But in fact, both realities are real, simultaneously happening, and they're happening at different time intervals because it all is based upon the speed of light. Way off on a tangent there. But so study that measurement tool. Now, another way to do it is the Greek philosopher Zeno, Zeno. Okay, look that one up if you don't understand. And the Greek philosopher was, well, I think he shooting an arrow type thing, and you divide the distance, or a runner divides the distance. So you take, this is another one that will just absolutely blow your mind. Okay, now I can give you a visual feeling. Okay, so Zeno taught that you divide. When I say divide, in half, okay? So what's the half of this distance? Well, it's that distance. What's the half of this distance? Well, it's that distance. What's the half of this? It's that, and that, and that. And go to infinity of half, 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 half. And that's where you get into a Planck length, which is idiocracy, that, but still, again, how do you divide a Planck length? Then they go, well, you can't divide a Planck length. There's nothing smaller than that. Well, there's nothing smaller because that idiot couldn't conceive that reality is an illusion. If you could conceive that reality is an illusion, he would not have never said that there's such a thing as a Planck length, because that's like a Googleplex length. There's some asinine teaching that isn't real. But if you continue to divide to infinity, there's no end to division. Would you agree there's no end to division? Well, if you're a atomist or a Planck lengther, then you would agree, well, there's an end to division, but expand your brain a little bit instead of being stuck on being brainwashed that there is a limit. No, there isn't a limit. So if I divide, that means you can never, ever, ever get to the end of division. This can never completely touch this, because it can't happen, because it gets smaller and smaller and smaller to infinity and Googleplex and on and on and on. But the proof is here. Here's the proof. My hands go this way, and they actually passed each other. Do you see that? And they come back this way. They pass each other. So if they passed each other, I got past a Planck length. I got past infinity. Whatever infinity is, you can go a Googleplex times to the Googleplex power, okay? Pretty big number. And go to infinity. And still, my hands passing each other, prove that reality doesn't exist. If you ever do the math and put this in your head and start studying these things that I'm telling you, if you do that, someday maybe, like Buddha sitting under the tree, it might just go, it just like, then you'll get it, okay? Then you will be enlightened when you understand, when you experientially but experience. I'm using words, and I cannot use words. There's no way to convey enlightenment. But when that happens to you, everything changes for you. It realigns everything. So now when you talk about people that are talking about chakras, and they're teaching about witchcraft, or they're teaching about this, or spirituality, or this, or that, or whatever. It's like you've realigned everything, and now you realize, oh, that's stupid. That can't exist. Yes, there's chakras in your body, but there's no body. So how can there be chakras? Well, yeah, there is a body, but it's a spiritual body. No, There's no spiritual body. There's no body. There's no chakras. This is like saying there's remote controls. You have to study the remote controls because they're very spiritual. And I can push this button and turn my video machine off, and that'll prove that there's a remote control. Well, but there's no video machine to turn off. Therefore, the remote control isn't really a remote control. Now I'm talking idiocracy that doesn't make sense to you because you're not enlightened. But so it will realign everything for you. And then, as I was talking about a little earlier, this huge awareness, or your mind of what you've studied for decades and everything, will start to align, and things will start making sense to you completely different now that you know reality isn't real. When you realize that reality isn't real, then spirituality, things like, for instance, I could say, what am I? Who am I? Like Descartes, for instance. I think, therefore I exist. Okay, I think. What is I? Well, when these idiots are teaching non-duality and say, well, there is no I, you, if you're enlightened, you're going to go, you can play that game with somebody that is stupid, or somebody that has the ability to be brainwashed by you, but not me, because I've experienced an enlightenment episode that, by the way, never goes away and it never diminishes. So from an enlightened point of view, to say there is no I, it's like, no, actually there is no you. There is no reality. All of this is an illusion. The only thing that isn't an illusion is the I that is thinking. That's the only thing that isn't an illusion. And then you have to realign everything and go, but what am I? Am I this physical body? No, the physical body is an illusion. It doesn't exist. Does it have chakras? Well, in this reality, this physical body has chakras, but it's all an illusion, so who cares? Now, when I say who cares, do I want to sit here and eat hamburgers and milkshakes and not exercise and become unhealthy and unfit and not be able to go out and do anything? No, because in this dream reality, if I do that, I'm going to be unhealthy, and that's not going to be very fun for me. So in the same concept, are chakras real? Yeah, they're real. And if you want to study that stuff and you think that that's a great thing to help you become enlightened or whatever, then go for it. But it isn't going to, it's an illusion. It isn't real. But if it helps you become healthy, like fasting, like eating healthy foods and all these things, then great, go for that. But don't think that it's real. Only think that it's maybe for you personally, that's a spiritual thing that you need to pursue. Okay, I think that's enough for one day on enlightenment. But as I said, I'm just casting this out there for everyone. And who does it apply to? Honestly, I don't know. Because there are so few and far between people that are ready for this thing, that there isn't a handful of people in the entire planet Earth that's really ready for this stuff. And so is it meant for you? Probably not, but I'm throwing it out there anyways. And it's fun. In this illusory reality, I enjoy making videos. Why? Because I love God with all my heart, might, mind, and strength. I love all those that are on this path. I love those that pursue this with vigor, because there's going to be an eternal friendship made between you and I. And is that important? Yeah, that's more important than anything in the universe. And it's more important than anything. Why do you think God created this reality, this realm and everything? Did he do it because, when I say he, did she, it, whatever, did God create this reality because it was something that God thought would be fun, or because God wanted to learn something new because, oh, wow, I never saw a tree like that before that I created. No, no. God did this all because God loves you. Because God wants you to learn what God is. God wants you to develop to the fullest extent of what you can. That's why God did it, because God loves you. So if you turn it around and pay it forward, so to say, which is what I'm doing, pay it forward, trying to help other people, you're doing the same thing as God, okay? Which is becoming like God. Yeah, I think I'll close it here. I think that's enough for today. Today is Sunday. Anyways, thank you very much for watching, and I'll try to fill in the gaps. And there's an endless supply of gaps, but not a plank length of gaps. Anyways, talk to you later. I hope you have a good day. Bye.